play and call it work.
Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com with Tarik. And this is the beginning of a very, very fun series that we're going to be doing of the Space Marine reviews. So we got this new codex in today, the 40k Space Marines, Special Marines. And I'm surprised they didn't rename them Adeptus Astartes. I guess it says Codex Adeptus Astartes Space Marines. Yeah. It makes you wonder if they're going to have a Codex Adeptus Astartes Space Wolves.
Switched, Imperial Guard to Astra
Militarum, yeah. And you also see the new Eldar Codex came out. It said Codex Eldar Craft Worlds. So it makes you wonder if when they come out with the Dark Eldar, it'll be Codex Eldar, Dark Eldar, or like Kimura-ites.
You think so?
I have no idea. It doesn't really matter. It's just interesting. Codex Adeptus Astartes. So like we've done with the other releases of Necrons and Khorne and all the other ones that have been coming out, we're going to do a series of videos here. And we're going to run over the entire codex as much as we can. Obviously, we can't include every single detail. Yeah. And half the videos will be available for you for free on YouTube, and the other half will be in the MiniWarGaming Vault. Now, each video will be complete in and of itself, and that will cover a specific topic. But if you want to get the complete overview, of course, you need to be a Vault member, which is important to us, because our Vault members are what allow us to run our operations. And so we really appreciate it if you are already a Vault member. And there will be links in the video description below to go to the next video in the series. And we'll be putting a couple of these up a day. I don't know how many we're going to make because we're making them right now. Yeah. I'm guessing there will be at least half a dozen, if not more. And we're just going to release those rapid fire over the next few days so that you can get an idea of all the new stuff that comes with Space Marines. And of course, because we haven't played a lot of the new Space Marines, we're going to make mistakes. Yeah. So I want you to point out anything, whether it's a mistake or whether it's like a... we didn't think it's a big deal, but you think it's a big deal, point that out below. Certainly. Yeah, and because I'm interested in that, because I want to be able to catch that stuff. Not that we'll catch it in time for the rest of our videos, because we're making these all right now, but it'll at least kind of give me an idea as I start to play Space Marines. Yeah. And because you never know what you can kind of pick out. There's all these nuances that...
yeah, and different people can kind of say like, oh yeah, you know what, I figured that this will be better, like whatever this is. It'll be better if you do this, than this.
Yeah, and when you have 1,000 people or 10,000 people all kind of joining in on a conversation like you get online, then you get to kind of get a really complete picture. So this is going to be a partial picture because it's just from Tarik and my point of view. I also want to introduce Tarik. Tarik here is, he's volunteering for the summer here at MiniWarGaming. How you guys doing? So he's been helping us out a lot behind the scenes, and you are a Space Marine player for how many editions now?
Since 5th edition.
What have you collected? Which chapters?
I actually made my own, but I started off with vanilla, and then I went into Blood Angels.
Ultramarine vanilla.
Yeah, the Ultramarine vanilla, and then I went into Blood Angels because I got suckered into that, and now I'm back to vanilla because I figured, you know what, I want to make my own chapter and my own story. So.
What's the chapter tactics of your chapter? Which one are you successor of?
Yeah, I actually went with the Forge World. The Red Scorpions, I'm cheap, because the Narthesium, you get a free Narthesium upgrade with the 6th edition Red Scorpions. So you get 5 up, feel no pain on your tag
all sorts of guys,
which is like...
that's nice.
It's not nice for the opponent. Yeah.
But with the Forge World ones, you can't bring them in a Gladius Strike Force.
Precisely, yeah. So I'll probably change up to a different chapter tactic just for...
well, you can choose whatever successor chapter tactic you really want when the game comes around. Obviously, it's nice to have a theme. Like, obviously, this is the MiniWarGaming Space Marine chapter, which has its own theme, obviously. And I played as Salamanders because they're similar.
You played as Salamanders?
Yeah, well, they're a successor chapter to the Salamanders.
Okay.
And they also have a color scheme very similar to the Salamanders.
Maybe it was one of your videos where you had an Ultramarines.
Oh, I've used all sorts of chapter tactics. I've used a lot of them, but... technically, officially, they're a Salamander successor chapter made in the second founding, I think is what our fluff is, but it's been a while since I've looked at that, since we've done a narrative campaign. So anyways, this video we're going to talk about what we think are the major changes. We're going to run through everything, and then in the next videos we'll kind of go into more detail of each of these slots. And so Tarik actually did a lot of work, and you got
I had
10 pieces of paper there?
A bunch of notes.
And then all the notes on a lot of the changes, down to points changes and weapon skill changes.
There are some stats that changed.
Yeah, little surprising things. You never really notice when you get an extra wound here or an extra ballistic skill there.
Yeah, precisely.
So
scouts.
Yeah, like scouts. That's a big one.
And the Flamestorm Cannon is now assault. No, it's no longer heavy. It's an assault weapon.
Which one's the Flamestorm Cannon?
Flamestorm Cannon is a flame.
No, but which one holds that?
Oh, I think it was either Dreadnoughts or Storm Raven gunships.
Okay, so it doesn't matter
Or I
if it's
could be
assault or
wrong on
heavy.
both.
There's no relentless platform.
Yeah, unless you're equipping it with a Dreadnought, right?
Well, even
And
then, they can fire heavy and still charge.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because Dreadnought is a relentless platform,
true.
essentially, because it's
That's
a
true.
vehicle. But yeah, so lots of little changes. So I think, of course, the biggest change that everybody was probably looking for was the Gladius Strike Force.
Yes.
So that's the new detachment that all the new books seem to be getting, starting with the Necrons. Yeah, I don't think we can call it a Decurion type detachment anymore. That's what I used to call
Why
them.
not?
Well, because now there's like 5 books that have them. We have Necrons, Khorne Demonkin, Eldar. I guess that's it, and Space Marines. So that's the 4th one. So you can no longer say it's like this thing that's Necron-like. Yeah, it's clearly a pattern that they've established that they're going to be making these detachments of formations. And the Gladius Strike Force is interesting. I didn't get the overall impression, I'm not sure about you, of this being a super, super powerful upgrade.
No.
Like the Necrons or the Eldar.
No, not at all. It was a buff, but it was a slight buff, sort of overall, I felt, overall buff for almost everything. Not everything. Almost everything. Just to kind of strengthen them up a bit. But like, super powerful? No way, no.
Well, the Necrons, I think the thing that made them so powerful is that the reanimation protocol became a very powerful aspect of their army. Because everything else that they had buffs left, right, and center. But the fact that everybody all of a sudden had access to this reanimation, that was easily a 4+. That was very noticeable.
Yes.
And then Eldar, the very noticeable thing was the D weapons showing up in a lot of places.
Right, yeah.
A lot of people were talking about that. The Khorne Demonkin, of course, is the ability to summon an entire other army. And so,
cool.
Yeah, well, your blood tithes and all that. As you lose guys, you can use them to summon more demons in. But with this one, I'm not seeing like this one thing that is like, oh, holy cow! Now the Space Marines are like super competitive.
Yeah, no, and there wasn't anything that kind of. And I was talking to Leland the other day. There wasn't anything that kind of made them different. It wasn't like a Space Marine thing. It was just, a couple of buffs here and there, which is okay. It's fine. I kind of liked it.
See, I still think they have their flavor with the chapter tactics.
Yes,
because that's changed a lot.
Yeah. The chapter tactics definitely
It's kind of their thing. It's like being able to choose which chapter you are, and you get those buffs. And a lot of those changed. Some of them slightly, some of them not so much. But I think the big change is that in the Gladius Strike Force, everybody has access to the Ultramarines chapter tactics.
Yes.
And then if you're Ultramarines, you get access to them twice. I think this is going to be a bit of a controversial thing because it's kind of
clear cut.
Well, it's confusing. But once you've read it a few times, you can see that it talks about them being cumulative. It talks about basically the Gladius Strike Force. There's the Tactical Doctrine, Assault Doctrine, and Devastator Doctrine, which have all changed. They've all gotten a lot better, in my opinion. And now if you bring a Gladius Strike Force, regardless of your chapter, you get access to those 3. Whereas before you had to be Ultramarines to get access to those. And so you could be Black Templar in a Gladius Strike Force. And so Black Templar get their Adamantium Will and all their other stuff. Yeah. And they also get access to
because of the Gladius.
Because the Gladius
Tactical Doctrine, Assault Doctrine, and the Devastator Doctrine.
And the Tactical one a second time.
If you get the Demi...
Well, you have to bring the Demi Company and the Gladius Strike Force. But if you're Ultramarines, you get access to those 3 plus a Tactical. And then you get access to them again. And it talks about in the chapter tactics that if it says you get access to them more than once, they are cumulative.
Yes.
So the Ultramarines have access to the Tactical twice, Devastator twice, Assault twice, and the Tactical a third time. But each of them affect technically a different portion of your army.
Especially if you decide to make up your army out of different factions.
Yeah, like you bring a Combined Arms Attachment as well as a Gladius Strike Force. If let's say you have... Look, now we're going to talk more about the Gladius Strike Force in another video, but I gotta cover this. Like, you have let's say you have an Ultramarines Combined Arms Attachment and an Ultramarines Gladius Strike Force. Well, then you say, this turn I'm going to use a tactical... chapter doctrine that the Ultramarines get.
Yes.
Well, in that case, everybody gets it.
Yeah.
Because they're all Ultramarines. And then the next turn, you're going to be like, I'm going to use a tactical one for my Gladius Strike Force. Well, then only the Gladius Strike Force gets it.
Yes.
Then your third turn, you say, I'm going to use a tactical one that I get for my Demi Company. Well, then only the Demi Company gets it. And it's just like, you got to keep track of all that. And if anybody's watched me playing Space Marines, I have a hard time just remembering to do my doctrines. Never mind, like, remembering who gets which ones and all that kind of stuff. So, well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Definitely.
So the Gladius Strike Force, of course, is a big change. What else do you think you would kind of classify as a big change in the new Space Marine Codex?
Big change. Was there any big change? I have to check my notes, but like,
check your notes.
Yeah. I mean,
There's a lot of little changes.
A lot of little changes. The Grav weapons, being especially like the Grav cannons, are now a choice. So it wasn't only limited to the Centurions. It's now a choice that even the Devastator Marines, Devastator squad can get.
And Tactical Marines, too.
And Tactical Marines as well, especially, because you have the thing.
The thing?
Yeah, the thing. Where, like, one tactical squad, once it reaches 10, you get to get the range.
Combat squad.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, no, you're saying once you reach 10, you can bring a heavy weapon and a special weapon.
Yeah.
Because, you have in your 5-man tactical squad, you can bring a heavy weapon or a special weapon. So in a 5-man tactical squad, you could have a Grav cannon.
Yes.
In a 10-man, you could bring a Grav cannon
and a heavy.
And the special one is a combi Grav.
You can get a combi Grav, yeah.
I think it's a combi Grav.
Yeah.
And then your sergeant could also take a Grav pistol.
Yes.
Or a combi Grav. I can't remember which one.
Grav it all up.
So you technically have access to about 3 Grav weapons per
in one squad.
Now they are salvo.
Yes.
So as soon as you move,
then
you're way less effective because you're not relentless like the Centurions.
Yeah, but if you I guess it'll be like
drop pod on. But then you still moved out of the drop pod.
Yeah.
But you're close then, so you got 3 shots.
Yeah, then you don't have to like move up, like for 3 turns.
Yeah, I guess drop podding would be an interesting way to do it.
Yeah.
They drop in, and sure they're only getting the 3 instead of the 5, but a 5-man tactical squad just with the Grav cannon upgrade, and get a free drop pod if you bring 2 Demi Companies, which we'll talk about in the next video. Then I guess you could.
So much to talk about.
That could be a pretty cheap way to spam Grav cannons. Interesting. So the Grav becoming more accessible. Poor
Definitely.
Wraith Knights, I feel so sorry for you. Or I don't.
No, I didn't think so. Nobody feels sad for that.
But what else then? So we got Grav. We got obviously the huge one being the Gladius Strike Force.
There was also the interesting aspect for if there are squad caps to your vehicles, and not only that, once you reach the squad cap, you get bonuses. So, for example, you get Predators. You have a squad cap of 3. Once you reach 3 for your squad cap, you get a bonus for that. The rules I completely forget. I forget what the bonus was for
I know the Vindicator one was they could all fire 1 big shell that ignored cover.
Yeah.
There was the anti-flyer one that allowed them to re-roll the Savant lock. The Predator one I think was Monster Hunter, Tank Hunter.
Yes.
They all gain Monster Hunter, Tank Hunter if you bring them in a squadron of 3. So they're really
was it that? Yeah, that was probably it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, basically all of them. If you bring them in a squadron of 3, as long as the 3 of them are alive, you get this extra bonus. So it's basically Games Workshop's way of saying buy more.
Buy more, yeah.
Because it's cool. It's cool though. I like it.
It is cool.
It's like you have a reason to bring a squadron of 3.
Yeah, it's no longer like, and you can put them now. You can put them in a squadron rather than like. There's a reason for putting them in a squadron.
Yeah,
before,
reason.
There wasn't really a reason
Except to save a slot. But now with combined arms attachments, you can multiply combined arms attachments. You can bring an allied detachment with a different chapter of Space Marines.
Yes.
So you can find ways to fit them in.
That's true.
Now it's like, no, you want to bring, because gaining 3 Predators with, like 3 last cannon Predators with Tank Hunter and Monster Hunter, that's actually pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
All those last cannons getting to re-roll
And
wounds.
I also believe for the anti-air, the hunters, if you get like 2 hunters there's 2 stalkers and a hunter, then you get, it increases their ballistic skill or something like that.
Something like that. I can't remember all of them. Well, we'll be looking at those individually in a future video. But yeah, all the vehicles. You're right. All the heavy vehicles. Now, when you bring them in squads of 3,
patterns. Most of the Rhino patterns.
Yeah, exactly. They get some sort of bonus for being brought in 3. Another thing I noticed is that Librarians now have access to divination.
Yeah.
And I just double checked it because I'm like, I'm 99% sure they didn't have that before, because I remember always being like, oh, I want divination because I wanted prescience.
Yes.
And now they all have
have
access to it. Tigurius was your only way of getting access to it before.
Now your basic guy can have it as well.
And that seems like a minor thing, but like just having access to that extra power and getting that flexibility without having to bring Tigurius.
Yeah.
On top of that, with the whole Librarian formation, that allows you to kind of take each other's powers, which we'll cover in another video. I think that's actually a big difference, because if all you do is just spam, like how much is a level 1 Librarian? They're not much.
It's like 65 points. I believe it's 65.
Oh, really?
Points,
It's actually that much? I thought it was less. But honestly, there's been so many numbers I've been crunching in my head. Yeah, 65 points. Yeah, now it has divination. And so if you just bring a 65-point Librarian, all of a sudden you have access to prescience in all sorts of ways. You combine that with their doctrines, which allow a lot of rerolls, then it can make a big difference.
Yeah, it can be pretty effective.
Yeah, like imagine like a...
Though, just as a Librarian player, I would have liked more formations that included a Librarian.
Yeah, because you just have the one.
Yeah.
And if you're bringing a Gladius Strike Force, that's the only way to bring Librarians.
Yes, but you did bring up a good point that, for the Codex Astartes, fluff-wise, they probably wouldn't do that, because the Librarian is a separate sort of...
It's an auxiliary choice, really.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because the Gladius Strike Force represents like a Codex Astartes organized strike force.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be led by a Librarian, typically, obviously. Somewhere in the fluff, I'm sure it's happened.
Probably, yeah.
But usually it's going to be led by a captain or a chaplain.
Yeah.
Or both.
Or a chapter master, if that's your thing.
Yeah, because you're allowed to replace the captain with that. But not a Librarian. They're the auxiliary thing.
Yeah, because their department, if you will call it that, is separate from everything else. They're kind of like...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, unfortunately, you don't have a lot of flexibility with Librarians, but the formation is pretty cool, though.
Yes, definitely.
Which we'll cover in the next video.
Yeah.
But getting access to divination is nice, because it gives them the prescience. And so what I was going to say is, like, a 65-point Librarian, like you think about, there's so many applications. Like, for example, attach one of them to a squad of Devastators with Grav cannons and give them prescience.
Yep.
Like, holy cow, there's no... Or attach them to Centurion Devastators with Grav cannons.
Yeah.
Or whatever, it doesn't have to be Grav cannons, but anything that's effective at shooting, all of a sudden the Librarian... And he doesn't have to attach the squad to give it to them, obviously. It's just, if it's only 12-inch range.
Like 12-inch bubble, yeah.
Yeah.
So even if you're kind of like...
Nearby. Because you can be like, if you have a gun line in the back, like Devastators of some sort, or vehicles even, you could just be like, you get to reroll. Combine that with your doctrines. It gives you a lot of hitting potential. Like,
yeah, you got a lot more choices. Definitely a lot more options.
And if you think about it, with their ballistic skill of 4 across the board now, with the scouts,
with scouts, yeah.
I think I would classify that under a medium to large change. Just because it makes scouts that much more effective,
and they're the same points cost. Like they haven't increased in points cost.
That felt like it makes sense, because scouts, even though they're just scouts.
Yeah, they don't. It's not like
it takes a lot of work.
Less skilled than it just means that they're not in the power armor of a normal.
Yeah, they're the initiates.
Yeah,
it's like being like an initiate Jedi. Yeah. It's like you're still a Jedi with a lightsaber. You're gonna take out a bajillion stormtroopers.
Yeah, precisely.
So it's just because you're not like Yoda or, Darth Vader or something, doesn't mean that you're not going to be good.
Yeah.
Because you have your chapter masters with ballistic skill of 5, right? Yes. So they already represent that.
Weapon skill I think the captains had a weapon skill of 6.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, at least in the old edition. I don't really. Yeah. Lots of numbers to remember off the top of my head.
So many.
Okay, so that's another one. Divination, the scouts getting changed. What else do you got? What else do you got for major changes?
I would say we talked about chapter tactics for a bit.
Yeah.
Essentially, what they removed the one use only for not only for chapter tactics wherever it appeared, but also for warlord traits. One use only, where it was before, no longer a thing.
Yeah, a lot of the warlord traits are more.
They're more
useful.
Permanent.
Yeah, more permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah, there still are one use only things, but not nearly as rampant as they were before.
Yeah.
And of course, they get their own new tactical objectives. So that's there.
Of course, yeah.
And they got somewhat new relics, but some of them are similar to the ones before.
Yeah.
And then there's just been a lot of little tweaks through a lot of the units, but no new units, which is
No
interesting.
new units.
Yeah, not a single new unit. I was actually surprised by that. They rekitted the Devastators, which is really cool. They have, the new Devastators look really cool. We don't have any here. Yeah. They rekitted, I believe, the Assault Marines, and I think the Tactical Marines. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
But it might be the Devastators, because I'm trying to think, because the Tacticals have access to the Grav cannons now, but it might be through the Devastator pack that you have to get those. But honestly, I don't know off the top of my head.
Well, isn't it that when you choose your weapons, it's more of from the war gear list?
But I mean like actual model-wise, though. Like plastic.
Oh, okay.
Like they rekitted those ones.
Oh, right.
So, but not. There's no new models. Like last time the Space Marines came out, they got
Storm Tower.
I think they got these. They got the Hunters and the Stalkers. Yes. This might have been the last one. Might have been the one before that.
They came out with the Blood Angels
and the Centurions.
Yeah.
They came out with that.
So it was the Hunters, Stalkers, and
that's a lot. That's just that right there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of new things. Whereas this time. And I don't think I mind that they didn't come out with a lot of new models, because they just needed, they have a lot of variety for the Space Marines. They kind of just needed an update to fall in line with 7th edition.
Pretty much.
So I think
totally agree.
Yeah, and I think everything's received a buff. I don't think we've really seen anything get it. Has anything been nerfed?
There were maybe like one or two, nothing more, where like it was like either a points increase or some sort of nerf. I got it over here.
Most of the stuff was like, you get an extra ballistic skill, you get an extra wound.
Yeah, for example, Icarus Storm Cannon Array is now a heavy 3 rather than a heavy 4.
But now it can fire 2 targets at full ballistic skill.
At full ballistic skill.
Whereas before it would be ballistic skill 2.
Yeah.
It twin links against 1 or full ballistic skill against 2.
And it has Interceptor. It didn't have Interceptor before.
Yeah. So is that a buff or a debuff? It's more like a, you know what? Because I never liked their rules before. You can fire it twice at a lower ballistic skill or once at a higher. It's like, I don't want to miss. Yeah. And so now it's like, no, you can fire it twice at full ballistic skill or once twin linked. Which is really cool.
Yeah, so now you have a reason for getting these things.
Yeah. I know, right?
Yeah.
Before it's like,
no, I don't. I'll stick with my flak missile line.
Yeah, exactly. Or your Storm Ravens, or just finding the Skyfire Nexus, or who knows what. There's plenty of ways to deal with it. Or Devastator Doctrine back then you could use to reroll your snapshots, and then just fire Grav cannons at it and take it down.
Precisely. Yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah, well, prescience on Grav cannons firing at flyers. It'll work. It'll do the trick when you got that many shots. And you're rerolling your 6s to hit. Okay, so that's our overview. There's a lot more to that than what we just talked about, and that's why we're going to be making a ton of these videos. So our next video, which will be at the link below in the MiniWarGaming Vault, we're going to go over the Gladius Strike Force in more detail. It might actually take a couple videos to do, I'm not quite sure, but we'll just kind of see what happens as we talk about the Strike Force. We'll talk about the formations within it, all the benefits that come from it. And that'll be at the link below in the MiniWarGaming Vault. If you're not a MiniWarGaming Vault member, of course, you can still click it, get a free 7-day trial, get access. 7 days will actually cover all the videos that we're going to put out, I believe. We should have them all out in the next week. So even if you just want to try it out, you can get access to this full Space Marine review series for free. You don't have to stay members of the Vault. You can just cancel. Even if you forget to cancel and are charged, we have a 30-day full money-back guarantee. We really want you to try it out because the majority of people who try it out stick around, which we really appreciate because we work really hard to put this content out, and it costs quite a bit of money to do so. We have all our overhead to do it, and the Vault is what allows us to do that. So go ahead, click on the link below. We'll see you in the next video, and happy wargaming.